Mark Davies is either a character in a second-rate book about Saigon, or he's an utter plonker who's exposed as a twit today in the Post Office inquiry. He's the person who was in charge of PR. He admits that his emails look ludicrous today, and because of him, largely because of him, the scandal has continued, where hundreds of sub-postmasters and sub-postmistresses were blamed and prosecuted over accounting errors because of faulty software, and even despite the fact that it was called out. And he was told in a 2015 Panorama program which featured whistleblower testimony, and yet he went out fighting, saying this stuff is straightforwardly inaccurate, it's sloppy journalism in the extreme. He'd been a BBC employee, and yet there he was attacking the very company that had given him lifeblood in the past. And he wasn't prepared to accept the Second Sight report that had already acknowledged systemic issues with the software. This is fundamentally, I don't think he's the only person at fault. I don't think he's the only person to blame, but fundamentally his story sums up what has happened in the Post Office, and more than that, sums up the way this thing is being handled. That although people knew that there was a problem, they hadn't agreed that there was a problem. And there's a sort of difference between the two. Everybody knew, but nobody was saying. That's what it is. It's not unlike, and I draw the parallel very cautiously, it's not unlike the Jimmy Savile story, is it? Everybody knew, but nobody was saying. And he said, "I did not, as has been alleged, seek to cover up issues with Horizon. Indeed, quite the opposite. But because I did not have access to all the facts, I clearly played a part in prolonging the pain and injustice for those innocent people who were wrongly accused or whose convictions were unsafe." I think it's not that he didn't have all the facts. I think it's that the facts were not agreed, and that there was some caution in accepting those facts. The facts were there, and the facts were being trumpeted week after miserable week in the private eye, and elsewhere, by the way. So it's not that they weren't known. And it's about corporate responsibility. And I think in the end, it's about serious damage by a corporate entity. And I think the story and the narrative which is being spun here is a narrative that we will see repeated when Paula Vennells is placed on the stand and having to answer similar questions. And I think we'll see that similar tension between what was known and what was agreed. I don't think it's a defense. I think it's a very shabby trick, but it's a very interesting linguistic trick. What was known and what was agreed, what was accepted.